You ever play that like hypothetical like scenario game that goes something like, I would never do this one thing, but if I did, this is the reason why. Like, so for example, someone might kind of play this game and talking about their career or their job. They'd say, I never would, change my career, but if I did, this would be the reason why. Or I never, leave home, or I'd never move out of state, but if I did, this would be the number one thing motivating me to do so. Well, after the events of late last week and into early this week, I can confidently say that my family and I are not intending to leave Sierra Leone, nor do we want to. But if we ever did move, I feel like this would be the number one reason why. I guess what I'm trying to say is this video is going to be about the thing that to me is the very hardest part of living here. So it happened. The inevitable happened. For the first time since I recovered from my life-threatening encounter with malaria, typhoid, and dengue fever, one of my household got a fever. And a fever is not a super serious, kind of life-threatening, super dramatic thing in the States, or at least it wasn't to me. But here, fevers are a case for alarm because they are the very first really noticeable symptom of several serious illnesses that without medical treatment could become fatal. And so whenever someone gets a fever here, it's a cause for alarm. And this time around, it was my 1-year-old daughter, Eden, almost 2 years old in a couple weeks. And this was a very difficult couple days for our family. We knew this day would come, and we were trying our best to prepare for it, but it was really tough, and so I want to tell you about it. So obviously we learned a lot, and we kind of revised our approach towards getting medical treatment and medical help after my medical condition escalated so quickly when I first had a fever. Unfortunately, that didn't really make this experience that much less uncomfortable and stressful. Eden got a fever on Friday, and I immediately took her on a bike taxi to the hospital to get checked out. She wasn't feeling that bad at that point, but obviously we wanted to stay ahead of it before it got really bad. And I was really hoping to give some of the medical facilities in Bow another chance. I was really hopeful that perhaps my experience with them was just a blip on the radar, that it wasn't really indicative of their capabilities here. Unfortunately, some of my kind of negative experiences that I had in seeking medical treatment here in Bow when I was sick, some of that was kind of confirmed a little bit. A lot of it's not anyone's fault here. There's just a lack of medical resources and even expertise to some level. Just kind of give you an example of some of the shortcomings that just kind of make me uneasy is that it's really challenging to get a very firm diagnosis regarding any illness that someone has. And for example, this was a very similar experience to what I had. When they looked at Eden, they kind of took some temperatures, but they didn't really know what she had, and so they sent us home with 4 different medications that would basically treat 3 different possible illnesses. And so the idea is we don't know what illness you have, and so we're just going to fill you up with these medications, hoping that at least one of them will do something. And I'm not at all a healthcare provider, I'm not an expert, and I wouldn't even pretend to know better than the doctors that were, providing us with this sort of approach. However, I just don't like that. I don't like the idea of us taking medication for things that we don't know she even needs, and obviously every medication has side effects and things like that. And so we're taking these medications and we're waiting for them to take effect. And it is really hard. Because really the only medical facility that I really trust very much in Sierra Leone, and even though it's not super comparable to what we're used to in the US, is a facility in Freetown, which is about 4 hours away. And so the entire time that, through Friday, through Saturday, through Sunday, we're just going back, internally in our hearts saying, all right, do we need to go to Freetown? Do we need to go to Freetown? And we're trying to read the tea leaves, and there's a little bit of a high and a little bit of a low, and, the fever's persisting, and the fever's going up a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and go. And then the fever drops down a little bit. Okay, let's hold off a little bit. And it is really hard and really tough. And it's challenging because I know for me, I want to trust God with this. And I want to put it in God's hand and feel the peace and the comfort that having faith in God provides the believer. But I'm experiencing a challenge and difficulty because I know that I'm still expected to make decisions that are going to have dramatic consequences upon the health of my child. Now, I know my decisions aren't the end-all be-all, but I know decisions like staying in Bow or going to Freetown is going to have a significant impact upon my daughter's well-being if this is a serious, illness and serious disease that she's fighting. And so those sorts of decisions just weigh on me, and it makes it challenging for me to trust and to have that faith that I know I ought to have. In the US, whenever a loved one or myself was ill, you kind of go to the doctor and then there's nothing more you can really do. You just follow the doctor's instructions and advice, and and that's it. But here, so many of the factors that can contribute to you getting worse, staying the same, or getting better are up to you and up to me. And that just makes it very difficult when you don't feel confident regarding what to do, and especially, when the well-being of your 2-year-old is on the line. And I know a lot of this is probably just new parent talk, I know that's a thing with new parents, is being a little overly dramatic regarding the first time their kids get a fever and things like that. Even though that's not my natural tendency to be a very dramatic person. But I'm sure that's amplified even more the fact that knowing that an error in making a choice, there's so much less of a buffer between making a poor choice and being able to recover from that because of the limitation of medical care that's accessible to us here. And so it was really challenging, and what we think was the problem, and she's now recovered, is about a week before she got a fever, she smashed her thumb in a door. And because of that, the fingernail's coming out, and she snagged the fingernail a couple days ago and caused it to bleed, and it's basically, almost entirely peeled off, but it was an open wound there, and then her thumb got real red and swollen and hot, and so obviously there was an infection there. So what we think it was a viral infection from that injury. But thankfully, the antibiotics that we were giving her, in addition to some of the other medication, took effect. And now she's mostly recovered now, and she's, and we praise the Lord for all of that, and we're thankful for that. But it's challenging, and it's difficult, and, the stress and the worry that we feel during those 3 days where she has a pretty constant fever is really difficult to know, should we even be here? Are we doing the right thing as parents being here? Are we doing the right thing being in Bow? Are we doing the right thing being in Sierra Leone? And these are all the doubts and the things that kind of cross your mind in moments like this. And the thing is, this is not going to be a one-time thing. Like us living here, just like anywhere else, we're going to get fevers. And we know that if we live here long term, we're going to get malaria, we're going to get typhoid, we're going to get these sorts of illnesses. We're going to get a common cold that we're going to think is malaria, or that we're going to think is typhoid. And the truth is that what I went through a few months ago, what that resulted in is now when our daughter gets a fever, we're so much less confident regarding our judgment of what we need to do. Because after all, we made the wrong choice when I was sick, and it almost cost me my life. And so this creates so much more uncertainty and self-doubt, and even feelings of incapability and uncertainty that can also compound all of this. And so I think the biggest challenge that I'm wrestling with is I really do think that even though my body is more or less fully recovered from my illness, I still think there are some things up here in my mind that I need to get right. I think I need to receive some counsel and some advice and kind of get some spiritual therapy from some wise mentors regarding some of this to help me know how to think through this in a better way. And then additionally, I think another thing I wrestle with is how do I, in an environment where so much health-related decisions is up to me regarding what we do, where we go, what medications we take, how often we take them, all this stuff, how can I simultaneously be in the mindset of being a decision maker regarding all those things, but at the same time trust God and put my decisions in His hands and allow His peace and comfort to be with me during those really tough moments of turmoil. Sorry guys, I'm not really giving you a whole lot of takeaway or a whole lot of help through this experience, mostly just sharing a very kind of raw and unfiltered kind of brain dump regarding some of my thoughts and feelings. But I will say this, and this is something that's been a comfort and a guiding light for me through this experience, is that I said at the beginning of this video that even though we're not leaving, this aspect of living here, of one of my family is sick and we don't know what to do and we're not sure what the problem is and we're uncertain that we're treating it the right way, and all of the anxiety that comes with that. That is the hardest part of living here. And I even said that that would be the #1 reason that I could think of to move, is if me and my families could not handle that. But after thinking about it, I can also say that that might actually be one of the greatest reasons that I could think of for us to stay. Because it's through this kind of experience that the Lord is teaching me so much about dependence upon Him, about prayer, about deliverance, about gratitude. And those are all lessons that I need to learn. And I think seeing how troubled I am when I'm in a situation like I was this past week, it just reiterates to me that here in Sierra Leone, I can learn those lessons and I can grow in those ways. All right, guys, thanks for listening to the ramblings of a nobody in West Africa. I appreciate you a lot. Appreciate your prayers and your love and your support. I'll catch you next time.